Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I want to say again, if you haven't already subscribed and you're liking the content that we're providing, please be sure to subscribe. Be sure to give it a thumbs up, comment, and also share with your friends, family, colleagues, anybody that you think that can benefit from the information that we're sharing. So for today, the topic is how to build and achieve the best credit of your life, okay? Essentially, credit is such an important factor. It is pretty impossible to do many things without having positive established credit. Okay, so things like, renting your first home, even buying a home, getting a car loan, student loans, sometimes even opening a bank account. Believe it or not, most banks actually do inquiries. They want to see what type of client they're taking on, and then how they're going to be willing to, or if they're going to be willing to extend you additional credit. So, and another thing is a lot of employers also pull your credit, especially when you're trying to get to that next level of your employment life. A lot of employers are pulling credit because they want to see the type of people that they're employing, and to them it helps to indicate the financial prosperity, especially if you're in certain levels of employment, okay? So today I want to just discuss how we can help improve your score and get you the best credit yet of your life, okay? So these are the few things that when my clients come to me, they ask me, Nicole, like, what are some quick things I can do to have the most major impact on my credit? My first thing is to them, know where you stand. I'm going to include some information of how to inquire about your overall credit, and you can actually request a free report from all the major credit agencies. So I'm in Canada, and in Canada we have primarily two major credit agencies, Equifax and TransUnion. I know for my American viewers, there is also Experian, right? But I will still include all the information with the links so that you can inquire and get your free credit report. The first thing I always say is know where you stand. What is being reported on your credit bureau? How are the existing lenders in which you have a relationship with you, how are they negatively or positively impacting your credit? Also, you're going to want to know where you stand just to make sure that there are no inaccuracies on the actual credit bureau. It does happen. There are times where lenders sometimes can get mixed up their clients and put something on your credit bureau that has nothing to do with you. And this can definitely have a negative impact. So there is a process by which you can go and actually dispute claims or charges on your credit bureau. So that's something else I say to my clients. Find out what's on your credit bureau, go through it with a highlighter, see what really belongs to you, and anything that does not belong to you, make an actual claim. Okay, it is now up to the lender to prove that you are the person that actually is responsible or in charge of this credit facility. So right there, if there's something negative that is being reported on your credit bureau and it doesn't belong to you, immediately with that being taken off, right there, you've raised your points, okay? Another thing is when you're in the process of trying to rebuild, I always say, try to avoid, wherever possible, requesting new credit. It is true, every time we do an inquiry, especially those hard inquiries, which typically is what happens when you are applying for brand new credit, your score does go down a couple of points. Now, for a lot of people who are in those higher credit zones, it may not make a huge difference, but if you're in the brink of being in that fair to good category, having your score being pulled, or having a hard inquiry, as we like to call it, does have an impact and definitely can have an impact on your overall score. So try to avoid, wherever possible, having your credit bureau pulled. That is another thing. So I'm not saying that you can't access new credit if needed. Obviously you do what you need to do, but for those mindless, let's say, department store to save points or sign up today, save 10%, all those types of offers, I would say try to avoid those wherever possible. Okay, the next thing I like to say is look at your utilization rate. A lot of people don't realize that when you have a credit card of a $2,000 limit and you owe $1,999, even though you pay it in full every month, if by the time it is reported to the credit bureau, you owe the $1,999, that has a negative impact on your score. It doesn't matter if you've paid your balance in full. What's more important is the date in which your credit company is reporting to the credit agencies, okay? Because if at the date that they report to the credit agencies, they show that you are maximizing the credit limit, that does have a negative impact. In the eyes of the creditor, they say, well, for them, you're too dependent on credit. And that dependency gets them very nervous, because if somebody to them is too maxed out, and if anything were to change in your financial situation, they feel that you would be less in a position to actually be able to manage your debts as well as your personal obligations. So again, utilization rate, very important. I say to my clients, as a rule of thumb, do not owe more than 50% of whatever your credit limit is. So back to that $2,000 credit card, it is wise not to spend over $1,000. If you find that you're consistently spending $2,000 a month, it is actually wise to go back to that lender and say, hey, I've had this card for X amount of time. I'm a great client. I've been paying it as agreed. Will you be willing to increase my limit to $4,000? What you've just done is you've now said, I use $2,000, but I have a limit of $2,000, 100% utilization rate. Now, if you go back to them and say, I use $2,000, can you bump me up to $4,000? Even though dollar for dollar you owe the same amount of money, you've just now dropped your utilization rate by 50%. Okay? What I say with that is, if you can contact the lender and ask them if you have any pre-approvals. So you're not asking them to run a hard inquiry, which is back to what I said originally, trying to avoid doing hard new inquiries, because those inquiries can have effects on your overall score. You're asking them, what am I pre-approved for? Based on my relationship, are you willing to do this for me without me having to do a hard inquiry? If they say yes, great. If not, just say to them, well, please keep my file posted that I am interested if there are any offers in the future, okay? Another tip I like to tell my clients is go through and scour your credit, okay, for any of those old derogatory comments, especially things that are more recent. If you've had some derogatories on your profile and it's been 6 years, leave it alone. It's going to fall off within the next year, because most derogatory items fall off of your credit bureau within 7 years. However, I'm talking more of those collection items that might be a year old. If it's a year old, you better believe, even if and when you pay it off in full, the creditors are not taking it off of your credit bureau. So it is in your best interest to try to tackle those items. Get them at least reporting that you've settled and you've paid them. Okay, so what I always say is, if you owe ABC Credit, I say contact ABC Credit, get in writing what they're willing to settle for you. Most of these collection agencies, especially depending on how long they've had the file, they are willing to settle. And some will settle for 50 cents on the dollar. So if you owe $2,000, why not try to negotiate and see if they would be willing to say, okay, well, you know what, I'm in a position to pay $1,000 of the $2,000 that I'm owing. Are you willing to accept the terms of my agreement? If they say yes, great. Don't pay it right away. What you're going to want to do is ask them to send you it in writing. Send you the details of what you've talked about over the phone in writing. Get it in writing to protect yourself. Once you receive the documentation in writing, at that time you take it and you pay it. You are going to want to settle those collection items. It is a misbelief that by keeping it there and having it sit there and it's going to eventually fall off, you're going to be in a good position. No, you will not. Most of those items, like I said, stay on your credit bureau for 7 years. And you don't want to be tied down for the next 6, 5, 4, whatever amount of years it is by this collection item. And believe it or not, when it comes time for you to apply for new credit, most creditors are not going to lend you new money when they see that you have an outstanding collection item. They're going to say, okay, well, we've approved you on the basis of you paying this out. Or most likely they're not going to approve you because they see you as somebody who does not live up to their obligations. So just make an arrangement with these creditors, negotiate, try and get them to to accept 50 cents on the dollar. If they don't, if they even take 60% or 70%, it's still a savings. Pay it off. Make arrangements and pay it off. The other thing is most lenders love to see clients who have active trades. So when we say active trades, these are things that actually report on your credit bureau, not things like collections that haven't been paid in the past 2 years. They want to see that you're actively using something. This can be a credit card, this could be a car loan, this could be a line of credit, student loans. There's a lot of different things that actually help to assist with building active trade lines. Lenders like to see that you're still utilizing some forms of credit and that you can manage what you're doing. So this is where things like not missing payments come into mind. Do not miss your minimum payments. At least make sure that you're paying your minimum payments. The other thing they like to see is that you obviously can manage these debts. So it is a rule of thumb that you should have at least 2 active trades on your credit bureau at all times. So what if you're that student or somebody who's just starting out, doesn't really have any active trades? What I suggest you do is you try to apply for a secured line of credit. Secured lines of credits are great. They do help individuals who are either trying to reestablish credit or trying to build new credit by giving you the ability to access, let's say, a $500 credit card, but you do have to give them some collateral. Collateral is when you basically give them the money representing the amount of the credit that they are extending to you. So if you get a $500 credit card, they're going to take a $500 deposit. This $500 always remains your money. It never belongs to the creditor. It belongs to you. However, you are making a pledge against that $500 that if you do not do as you have agreed, which is pay your credit card, pay it on time, and don't let it get into a collection status, that they will give you back your money. And usually within 6 months to a year, you can contact that same creditor and say, hey, I've had my card for 6 months. Are you willing now to extend me that same $500 limit without having for me to keep my pledge of my $500 security deposit? This is something that's very important for people that are either trying to establish brand new credit or trying to rebuild credit that they might have damaged over the years. Okay, so these are just some of the basic tips that I always like to start off with my clients, getting them understanding the importance of credit, because believe it or not, credit is so important, and you don't want to be hindered from moving forward in your financial progression because you're unable to access the credit that you need. I'm hoping that these tips were useful to you today. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, or you can email me. I look forward to working with you and being on this wonderful journey, and I will love to hear your success stories. So again, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, like, and share. Talk to you soon, guys. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share. Talk to you soon.